This is part 4 of my tomato growing series for 2020, and today we're going to be talking about tomato care. We're going to be talking about watering, feeding, pruning and problems. Welcome back to Growing Frugal, and on this channel we're all about learning how to grow food, how to cook with that food and how to save a bit of money and live a simpler, happier and more sustainable life. And today is the 4th part of my tomato series, and if you've watched my recent videos you'll know we've had quite a few challenges, as I'm sure you have too, over the last few weeks. So my tomatoes have been a bit neglected. So today's video is not only including normal tomato care, but I'm also going to show you, as I promised right at the beginning of this series, warts and all look at some of the problems that I've got with some of my tomatoes. But don't worry, because I've got lots of fruit too. So let's have a look at what's going on. So let's have a look at the cordon tomatoes in the little grow houses first. So let's think about watering. So for tomatoes in these kind of grow houses in relatively shallow rooted containers, water them 2 or 3 times a week, but give them a really good drink so that there's lots of water going in and right down to the roots of the soil to really encourage the tomatoes to keep those roots growing outwards, get a really strong plant. Okay, so feeding. Now, if you're a beginner, you might have heard how to feed, but I remember being very confused by this. And the guide is to start feeding once a week, once the plants have set fruit. Now, what does that mean? Basically, once the tomatoes have flowered, and you've got some flowers there on that branch you can see, and once those flowers drop off, the tomatoes start growing. At that point, what you want to be doing is feeding once a week with a good tomato food. I like to use this organic seaweed tomato food, but choose to use whichever one you like, but make sure it's a tomato food, because if you use an ordinary plant food, what it's going to do is feed the foliage rather than the fruit. So the tomato foods are high in the right kind of nutrients to be encouraging fruit, which is what we're after at this point. Now for pruning the tomatoes. And even at this time of year, these little suckers, the side shoots on the tomato plants, keep on coming. So every week, or every time you water, remember to take off those side shoots. I've definitely suffered from not doing this year when I was away, so I think we won't get as big a crop this year as I'd expect. And then if your tomatoes are in a little grow house like mine, they're not very tall, not as tall as we'd like to get more fruit. So once your plants are getting up high, getting up towards the roof of the greenhouse, this is very close now, what we would do is to what's called topping it off. So you would just take a pair of clean secateurs and just snip off the top, and that will stop it growing any further, and the plant will then put all of its energy into creating those fruit for you. Now for pruning kind of healthy tomato plants, which is a little bit late for some of these here, but I'm a big believer in pruning off the lower leaves or any damaged leaves and letting more airflow occur around the tomatoes to help prevent disease. And so all that's about is kind of moving around in the lower part of the plant and snipping off the leaves. Now you can see here probably that some of these leaves are very damaged, and a couple of them have signs of blight, and on another plant there's much more signs of blight, so I'll show you that. But for these, what I'm going to do is to just give them a good old tidy up now. Also the problems I have is wind damage. So when your tomatoes kind of curl up, and they're curling upwards, quite a lot of these, it can be a number of reasons, but really it's telling you the plant is stressed. So there could be quite a few reasons for this year, because the weather is so hot. But mainly why I get this problem is the salt air just coming in and damaging the leaves. And that's just part of what I have to work with as a gardener. That's the climate we have. We also get to swim in the sea and walk on the beach. So there's lots of positives about living on the coast. But the negatives are vegetable gardening can be really challenging. So I think your tomato plants will be looking a lot healthier, a lot greener, and a lot more beautiful foliage than mine. But if you do have these kind of problems, what I'm going to do is take quite drastic action and remove a lot of the leaves that are crusty or showing signs of damage. So I'm going to do a lot of pruning now, and then I will show you what we have left and what's actually growing in that jungle. Okay, so that's all the tomatoes pruned now. I've given them a really hard prune, so now it's a matter of keeping our fingers crossed and hoping they'll survive. But in pruning already, I found a lot more tomatoes than I knew about. And I do have a rule of thumb that if I can't see the tomatoes, the sun can't either. So I'm not suggesting you go in and prune as hard as me. The reason I've done that is because of all the disease and damage to the leaves. So I haven't got a great deal to lose, but I have got quite a lot of fruit on there. So let's hope that they survive that hard prune and the various challenges they're having. And we'll see what our harvest is like in the next video. So here in the greenhouse we've got an orange banana tomato plant planted on the 14th of Feb. Really good sized fruit for June. So here we have some leaves that look to me like blight. So I'm going to prune this plant now and take off all of the leaves that look like they have blight on them, and I'm going to use my little clippers, and I've got them dipped here in a jar of just mildly diluted disinfectant. So let's do it. I'm actually going to take off all of these lower leaves and stalks, even the ones that don't look diseased, because what we want to do is have lots of airflow around the tomatoes, and that helps them ripen, but also helps to prevent many of the diseases where the water can just kind of splash up, and many of these fungus are soil borne, which is why I like the tomato halos in my little greenhouses. So really important to get rid of all of the debris so that we're not adding blight spores to the soil that's there. And what I haven't done on this one, but I think I will do now, is to add a little layer of mulch. I think I've got some sheep's wool, but anything really to just lay on top of the soil here and prevent any splashback coming up and hitting the leaves as I water. So that's this pruned. And although it's not the healthiest looking plant, it has got lots of fruit. So let's give those the best chance of ripening. Pruning done. But here we have much better news. These are outdoor tomatoes, have been ravaged by the heat and downpours as well. They are doing amazingly. Planted at exactly the same time. This year, this looks like the crop that's going to do best for me for my tomatoes, which is fab. And we've already got really big tomatoes already. There's another one hiding in there. I've got these bunched together to help protect them from the wind, but I do need to be careful about blight, so I'll spread them out when we get some sunny days. And there we go. Absolutely huge already. So these are doing very, very well. They're Aurora and Grushovka, I think it is. Now watch closely as I show you how to prune these indeterminate tomatoes. Like that. They don't need any pruning whatsoever unless they get some blight or some damage to the leaves. There's no need to do anything with them. They're really low maintenance. Fantastic tomatoes to grow. So that's it for part 4 of this tomato growing series. Don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell button if you want to get an alert, so you'll be able to see whether my tomatoes have got through this rather drastic pruning that I've just given them. So I hope your tomatoes are going well, and I look forward to seeing you next time.